Welcome back to the Start to Finish course on upgrading to .NET Core. We are currently in the module focused on publishing our application. And this lesson, we're going to create a single exe that we can just give to someone or put on a server somewhere to deploy. So let's go to Visual Studio. And in here, we're going to publish, let's just publish the tracker UI. So we're going to normally, you can just right-click and say Publish, but we're going to expand on this a bit. So I'll show you the steps, but then we're going to go back and not do this quite yet. So under Folder, we could just say Publish, but that's not quite enough. So let's cancel this, and instead we're going to look at our project, our properties of our project itself. So let's modify this property group right at the top. So inside here, I'm going to add a few different flags. The first flag I'm going to add is publish single file. And that is true. What this will do is instead of publishing all the DLLs separately, it's going to put everything into one file. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to say the runtime identifier. And this specifies what type of runtime to create. Now, since this is a Windows desktop user interface, so WinForms or WPF, those have to run Windows. You can't run them on Linux or Mac, even though they're .NET Core. But what we can do is we can specify, do you want 64-bit or 32? Let's say Win-X64. Now I'm also going to specify that this should be published ready to run. So publish ready to run, and that is true. That's going to optimize it. And then finally, I'm going to want a publish trimmed, also set to true. And what trimmed will do is, since this is a single file, and we're going to put essentially all of .NET Core inside of here. Now what that will do is it will take all the .NET Core files and it will put them inside the exe. And so your exe will be somewhat large. In fact, it may be as large as 100 megabytes. But then publish trimmed says, well, honestly, you're not going to use all of the .NET Core. Now you're going to use big chunks of it because things like system, you probably use system a lot. And so that's a pretty foundational one. So it's going to be some definite overhead, but that publish trim is going to take out the things that you're not using and throw them away. And that will shrink down your exe. What this does is it allows you to make sure that your exe will run even if the target machine does not have the correct version of .NET Core installed. Again, this does not allow you to take this to Mac or Linux, even though it's self-contained. And it does not allow you to take it to, say, Windows XP, which can't support the .NET Core framework. But as long as .NET Core can be supported on that machine, your exe will run even if .NET Core is not installed. So with that, let's save this. Now we can right-click and go to Publish. We're going to say Folder. This will be the bin release .NET Core 3 Win64 Publish folder. That's fine. I'm going to say Create Profile instead. Now there are settings you can change in here, such as target location, configuration. This is not framework dependent. It will be self-contained. So framework dependent means it's not going to put the .NET Core into your exe. So self-contained is what I want. And then inside here, we'll find our executable file. We'll find it in here somewhere. And it appears as though it has not actually done the single file, so let's Control A and delete this. We're going to clean out this entire folder so that it's empty for our next attempt. All right, and now let's check our settings to make sure that we didn't revert something. It is self-contained. We hit save and make sure that publish trim, publish ready to run, and publish single file are all set to true. And now let's try this one more time. Okay, we're done. And come back, and all those files are still there, but I think if we look here at the full file path, let's just edit so we can see it. The full file path includes the /publish. I went one level too short, so publish, and there we go. So our full application is 157 megabytes, or 154 megabytes actually. That's a lot, and it seems like it's massive. But at the same time, that's our entire application and the framework to run it. You don't want that? Not a problem. You can come back over here and grab just the files that you need. Now this includes all the .NET Core stuff too, but if you were to turn off the framework dependent, meaning make it framework dependent, which would turn off the including .NET Core, that would make it even less files to copy. So it's up to you how you want to do this. Let's do this. So you've already seen it's 154 megabytes. And in fact, we can go here and just show off that in fact it does run. Give it a second. And it is loaded. And there you go. So you could just put this on a file share somewhere and have anybody run it with no installation necessary. You're good to go. But let's take it one step back, and we're going to delete this folder, and we're going to try again. And this time we'll do framework dependent, meaning we're not going to have the .NET Core published with it. And it actually gave me an error, I think because of the fact that I have framework or self-contained, but then I have a mismatch here with single file. So if I were to cut those out, I believe that would solve that problem. I could hit save, then come back over here and change this over to be framework dependent, save that, and then publish this. And that should publish just fine. Publish succeeded, and we come back over here, and there's still a lot of files, but there's less of them. So there is 49 total items in this folder. Win64. There's quite a few here, but not an overwhelming number. Notice all the different languages it also supports. So that's your Tracker UI, which is 156 kilobytes. So whether you want to deploy this right here, this folder, with all of the stuff in it, and then just say to people, run trackerui.exe, or whether you want to deploy just trackerui.exe, which is a little larger, but it's only one file, and then it's obvious what to run, it's up to you. But either way, you can do that. So let's put these back, and I'm going to change this back to be the self-contained. Okay, so that's all it takes to deploy your application, your EXE, as either a self-contained file or as a set of files that you can then deploy somewhere or put into an MSI or MSIX project and deploy. Now I did just the WinForm UI, but this would work the same way with the WPF UI as well. Same settings, everything. We're going to come back and look at how to deploy the MVC UI in a couple of different manners. So that'll be the next lesson we do.